Hello everybody and welcome back, where today we're returning to a game that I haven't played on the channel in a very long time. It's been many months since the last season of Battlefield 2042 when I last made a video on it, but we're back for today's video talking about Season 7 that just dropped yesterday. Now there's quite a few changes here and new additions and some bad things too, but mostly good that I want to cover today because for the most part I'm quite impressed with what DICE have been able to offer here in terms of quality, but again, I am a little bit underwhelmed on quantity. First of all though, just want to say thank you to everybody who jumped into the live stream yesterday. For about an hour and a half, we jumped into the game, talked PSVR2, talked Battlefield, talked gaming in general, and it was a lot of fun, so thank you for joining. It isn't publicly listed on the channel, but if you want to go and rewatch that or any of the live streams, there is a live stream playlist on the channel which includes all of them, including the State of Play one that we had a couple months ago, and the next time we go live will probably be for another State of Play, so keep a lookout for any announcements around that time. Anyway, the first thing on the agenda here is talking about the new map for 2042, Haven. This reminded me a lot of Battlefield 1's Sinai Desert and a couple of other maps such as El Alamein from Battlefield Portal in 1942. At least visually, it feels a lot more like Arica Harbour and the Bad Company 2 maps in terms of layout. Everything is quite condensed here and the flags are very close to each other. And overall I do quite like this map. The only thing that I don't quite like are the spawns in certain areas because they are really rough sometimes. Spawning in front of enemies has happened to me on quite a few occasions, but visually here I really like what I'm looking at. The clutter is nice in terms of the debris littering the streets. The destruction is good since these seem to be mostly retextured Portal assets from Bad Company 2, and the backdrop of the desert looks really good too. It does seem very Russian-sided though. I've played about 8 matches on this map and only one time has the US actually won. It's not just me as well, a lot of other people are talking about this. And also on the creator live streams the other day, I think almost every match was won by the Russian side too, but I have had one instance of the Russian side losing, so it is definitely possible, but the map does seem to be a bit weighted. It can feel a little hectic in close quarters and between lanes, between objectives, but that is to be expected with a new map. People haven't quite figured out what lanes they should be taking from objective to objective at the moment, and it can take a couple days for that to sort of settle. And that's why I didn't just jump into the new map when looking at this new update and the new season. I did jump into some old ones because the other changes made here, I needed to analyze between different maps that I'm already familiar with to see how they really played out, because having a brand new map to test out already pre-existing mechanics that have been changed is not really a good test to see how they've adjusted on the gameplay side of things. Along with this new map that I am pretty positive about, we also got new music, which is very Battlefield-like, sounds really good, I'm a fan of that, and a couple new guns and gadgets. I've only got to test out the Scorpion. I forget its name in game, but it is a Scorpion Evo. It's a nice little SMG that surprisingly has a lot of range to it, especially with the new recoil change that I'll get into in a little bit. I actually found myself using this at longer ranges than I did with some assault rifles because the visual recoil seems to be less on this gun, making it a lot more manageable at long range, and it really performed well in both close and long range as well, which was surprising to me. As an SMG, it feels like a middle ground between the MP9 and the PBX in terms of reload time. It's pretty quick to reload, and I've really enjoyed using it for the few hours that I've had my hands on it. As for the rest, the AK seems very solid, but I haven't got my hands on it yet, and neither with the S4 gadget. But that does seem like a viable alternative if you don't want to run Liz, but do want anti-air or anti-tank that you can control in a similar manner. Since last playing as well, they added the helicopter gunner indicator, so in the UI when you're in a helicopter you can see the orientation of your gunner and vice versa, making it a lot easier to communicate non-verbally about where you're facing and where the helo is going to go next, as to not surprise or disorient your gunners, making it a lot easier to hit targets, which I also appreciate. Love to see that. And we've got a new indicator with squad wiped, which has been brought over from Hazard Zone. Really like seeing that here, meaning that you will know when a squad can no longer spawn near you because the entire squad is wiped. The new spawn screen as well, as Lemon on the stream yesterday pointed out, is very Battlefield 4-like, and I do like the fact that it gives you a lot more detail and information about where you're spawning and what you're highlighting than it did before, especially on the vehicle selection menu with a little timer telling you how long it is till you can select a new vehicle. It reminds me a lot of the UI from Battlefield 5 in that respect too, with the vehicle icons. Positive change from me there in my opinion. The last big note to talk about is the new recoil system, because this one I'm a little bit mixed on. It's a very bold move to throw in a change like this at the end of a game's life cycle, because I'm predicting we'll probably only get one more season of support for Battlefield 2042, and it reminds me a bit of the TTK change for Battlefield 5, which then got reverted after a couple months. But this one doesn't seem as drastic, although I've played both a bit on PC and a bit on console, and I did feel more impacted on PC in terms of this recoil than I did on console. It's now a lot more bouncy. It feels like it does feel like your character's really struggling to hold the weapon straight rather than the straight kicking up that it used to do, which is making long-range firefights, especially on mouse and keyboard, a lot more difficult. Whereas on console, I didn't find that I was impacted that much. And it's also weird to see that SMGs seem to be a lot easier to handle at long distance in terms of visual recoil, not necessarily spread and damage, because obviously SMGs will perform worse compared to assault rifles, but in terms of actually keeping eyes on your target with the visual recoil going on, I found it a lot easier to target long-range enemies with SMGs compared to ARs, which is a really weird change. Some guns like DMRs also have received some negative changes from this recoil adjustment because some of their animations are a little bit broken, they don't reset properly for me. But all in all, I do quite like the feeling of it, but it's going to take some time to adjust to the actual way the recoil performs on a match-to-match and instance-to-instance basis, because it's only been a couple of hours. And in terms of immersion, I'm liking it, but again, it's going to take a little while to adjust on the gameplay side of things for me. I have had quite a couple of new bugs though. I did have an option to return to launcher when I'm playing on console. Never seen that before, and then when I did press it out of curiosity, it crashed my game, which is quite funny. And I also had an interesting bug on stream where I went to melee, and instead of using the hammer that I've got equipped, it used my entire G36C to bash someone's skull in. I had a good laugh about that on stream as well. The last note here is that we're getting some more content in a couple of weeks' time. We're getting the brand new stealth jet, which seems like a lot of fun. I'm just really hoping that they've learned their lesson from the bombers back in Battlefield 5, because players who get their hands on those can terrorize an entire server, cut off objectives completely, and make life hell for infantry with basically no way to fight back. But with the increase in air traffic essentially in this game, I think it will be a bit more balanced, because these jets apparently have not many defensive capabilities and are pretty weak against other attack jets and air-to-air missiles, so fingers crossed, they're fairly balanced. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm looking forward to the big explosions that they can make. And a new gun and the revamped Hourglass Stadium as a new map, which I personally don't really agree with that being advertised as new. It's more like a revamp or a rework, but more content is more content, so I'll see how we find that. As a kickstart to the season though, it's brought me back into playing 2042 a bit more, which is always a good thing. If I'm finding myself booting this game up as something to do and actively choosing it over other games at the moment, that's always a good sign. So safe to say I am enjoying the changes and I am enjoying the updates for sure. Please do let me know your thoughts on Battlefield 2042 Season 7 in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to our patrons, Luke Bentley, Hazit Mirza, Ace Gamer, and Phil Irving. Your guys' donations help keep the channel going day after day and month after month. If you want to join the Patreon or YouTube membership, the link's in the description below, starting and ending at $3 a month. Anyway, thank you for watching once again, and I hope to see you all in the next video.